The Forgotten Protectors. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Confederation hung in somber silence. Once a testament to the union of 1,000 worlds, today it was a chamber of desperation. The massive holographic display at its center showed another system falling to the Void Eaters, horrific entities of dark matter that consumed worlds and left nothing but empty space in their wake. High Chancellor Vrax's translucent appendages trembled as he addressed the assembled representatives. The Regelian defense line has fallen. The Void Eaters consumed the entire system in 19 hours. 14 billion souls. Gone. His voice, amplified through the chamber's acoustics, carried the weight of impending doom. Representatives from 100 species shifted uncomfortably in their biomechanically adapted seats. The Merlixians, with their crystalline bodies, fractured light in anxiety patterns. The gaseous Xendu condensed in fear. The hive-minded Cytheri buzzed in unified distress. Our scientists estimate total Confederation extinction within 2 standard solar cycles, continued Vrax, his compound eyes reflecting the horror of the projections before him. We have tried negotiations. We have deployed our most advanced weaponry. Nothing stops them. Silence followed. The kind of silence that comes only when a civilization faces its end. Then, from the darkened edge of the chamber, a voice spoke. Elder Kyrix of the Historian caste, his body withered by 9 centuries of life, floated forward on his gravity platform. There is one option we have not considered, the Elder said, his voice barely audible yet somehow cutting through the chamber. Speak, Elder, prompted Vrax. The Forbidden Archives mention a species, erased from our public records over 3 centuries ago, who might stand against this threat. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Elder Kyrix continued. They were called humans. The word itself seemed to cast a chill across the chamber. Several representatives visibly recoiled. The Destroyers? Hissed Representative Tizak of the Ophidian Alliance. We severed contact with them for good reason. They were too unpredictable, chittered another. Too violent, added a third. Vrax raised his appendages for silence. Elder Kyrix, surely you cannot suggest we contact the humans. The separation accord was unanimous. Their inclusion in galactic affairs was deemed too dangerous for stability. Kyrix's ancient eyes narrowed. More dangerous than extinction, Chancellor. The records state that humans possess qualities we lack. Adaptability beyond reason, creativity bordering on madness, and a capacity for violence that once made the Confederation tremble. The very reasons they were separated from us, countered Vrax. Yes, agreed Kyrix. And now, perhaps, the very reasons we need them. The debate raged for hours. Elder Kyrix revealed fragments of classified history, how humans had once been part of the early Confederation, how their propensity for swift technological advancement and unpredictable military tactics had frightened the elder species, and how, eventually, a decision was made to isolate Earth through a dimensional barrier, removing all references to humanity from galactic records. The barrier was designed to hide Earth from the rest of the galaxy, explained Kyrix. But it works both ways. The humans cannot see out, and the Void Eaters likely cannot see in. They have been preserved, perhaps for this very moment. In the end, desperation won over fear. A mission was authorized. A single envoy would breach the dimensional barrier and plead with humanity for assistance. Ambassador Ziri of the diplomatic Lyran species was selected for the task. The slender, feline-like beings were known for their empathic abilities. Perhaps Ziri could sense if the humans harbored resentment for their expulsion from galactic society. Ziri's sleek vessel approached the coordinates where Earth's solar system had been hidden. For 3 centuries, no Confederation ship had ventured here. The dimensional barrier glimmered before them, a faint shimmer in the void. Activating the breached sequence, announced Ziri's pilot, a cybernetically enhanced Merlixian named Cast. Ancient codes, preserved by the Historian caste, were transmitted. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a seam appeared in space itself, a wound in reality that widened just enough for their small vessel to slip through. The barrier closed behind them with a flash of energy that temporarily disrupted their systems. When the screens cleared, Ziri gasped. Before them hung a blue-green world, surrounded by a staggering array of orbital structures. Massive stations formed a protective shell around the planet. Ships of various sizes patrolled in organized patterns. What had once been a single inhabited world had transformed into a fortified system bristling with technology that made Confederation vessels look primitive by comparison. "By the void," whispered Cast. "They've been busy." Before Ziri could respond, their communication system activated automatically. A stern human voice filled the cabin. "Unidentified vessel, you have entered restricted Earth defense space. Your dimensional breach has been detected and logged. Maintain position for boarding and inspection. Any attempt to maneuver will be considered hostile action." Ziri felt a cold fear settle in their fur. "This is Ambassador Ziri of the Galactic Confederation. We come in peace, seeking audience with human leadership on a matter of grave importance." A pause. "Galactic Confederation." The voice contained surprise and something darker. Suspicion, perhaps anger. "Maintain position. You will be boarded." Within minutes, a sleek vessel much larger than theirs approached. It was angular, matte black, and utterly silent in its movement. No visible propulsion, no energy signature that their sensors could detect. It simply appeared alongside them, as if it had always been there. A docking tube extended, connecting to their airlock without requesting permission. The metal rang as something heavy moved through the tube. The airlock cycled, and Ziri stood to greet their visitors, arranging their features into the universal diplomatic expression of peaceful intent. The inner door slid open, revealing a human in a form-fitting dark uniform. Tall, bipedal, with brown skin and sharp eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. The nameplate on the uniform read CDR. Reyes. "I am Commander Elena Reyes, Earth Defense Fleet," the human said, her voice controlled but containing an edge that made Ziri's fur stand on end. "You have exactly 1 minute to explain how you breached our barrier, and why, after 300 years of silence, the Confederation has suddenly remembered we exist." Ziri swallowed hard. "Commander, we face extinction. A force known as the Void Eaters is consuming our worlds. Nothing we possess can stop them. The Confederation. We need humanity's help." Commander Rice's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes, a complex emotion Ziri couldn't interpret despite their empathic abilities. "How ironic," Rice finally said. "The same Confederation that decided humanity was too dangerous to exist in their perfect galactic society now comes begging for our protection." She stepped fully into the ship, followed by 4 more humans in similar uniforms, each carrying weapons unlike any Ziri had seen before. "The Elder Caste preserved the truth," Ziri said quickly. "Most of our people don't even know humans exist. The decision was made by a previous generation. A decision that left us isolated for centuries," interrupted Rice. "Do you know what happened after the barrier went up, Ambassador? Do you know what we found when we realized we were alone?" Ziri shook their head. "We found freedom," Rice said. "Freedom from the Confederation's restrictions on our research, on our development. We've advanced in ways your people can't imagine." "Then you can help us." Hope flared in Ziri's chest. Rice studied them for a long moment. "That depends. Your minute is up, Ambassador. Now you'll come with us, and you'll tell our leadership everything about these Void Eaters. Then we'll decide if your Confederation deserves saving." As Ziri followed the humans through the docking tube, they couldn't shake the feeling that they had awakened something far more formidable than they had expected. The Confederation had feared human unpredictability and capacity for violence. Looking at the cold efficiency with which these humans moved, Ziri understood why. But they also felt something else, a strange hope. If any force in the galaxy could stand against the unstoppable Void Eaters, perhaps it was these humans who had spent 3 centuries preparing for a war that never came. Ziri was escorted through the human vessel, marveling at its design. Unlike the organic curves and symbiotic technologies of Confederation ships, everything here was purposeful, efficient, and somehow intimidating in its simplicity. They arrived at what appeared to be a command center. A large circular table dominated the space, surrounded by more humans in various uniforms. At the head stood an older human with silver hair and a bearing that spoke of authority. "Admiral Jackson," announced Commander Reyes, the Confederation representative. The Admiral's weathered face regarded Ziri with piercing blue eyes. 300 years, he said quietly. 300 years we've waited for this moment. "You expected us to return?" asked Ziri, confused. A dry laugh escaped the Admiral. "We knew someday you'd need us. Humanity doesn't forget, Ambassador. Our history with the Confederation is taught to every child. How we fought alongside you against the Kraxis horde. How we sacrificed our colonies to save Confederation worlds. And how, when peace came, we were deemed too dangerous to keep around." Ziri lowered their eyes. The records speak of a different reason for the separation. They claim humans requested isolation to develop independently. "A convenient fiction," said Admiral Jackson. "But not why you're here now. Tell us about these Void Eaters." For the next hour, Ziri explained everything. How the mysterious entities had appeared from deep space 2 years ago. How they consumed matter at the quantum level, leaving nothing behind. How every weapon and defense had failed. The humans listened silently, occasionally exchanging glances or making notes on their devices. When Ziri finished, Admiral Jackson leaned forward. "You've brought data on these encounters." Ziri nodded and offered a data crystal. A human officer took it, inserted it into a slot on the table, and immediately holographic displays sprang to life around them, showing recordings of Void Eater attacks. The humans studied the footage with unsettling intensity. Where Confederation scientists had seen only horror and despair, these humans seemed to be analyzing, calculating. "Predictable attack patterns," murmured one. "Energy conversion signatures here and here," pointed another. "Possible phase vulnerability during absorption cycle," added a third. Admiral Jackson turned to Ziri. "We will need to convene our defense council. Your request will be considered." "How long?" asked Ziri desperately. "The Thorian system is expected to fall within days. Billions more will die." 6 hours, replied Jackson curtly. "Commander Reyes will see to your needs until then." As the Admiral and most of the officers filed out, Reyes remained with Ziri. "Your people," Ziri ventured. "Do they all know about the Confederation?" Reyes's expression softened slightly. As the Admiral said, "Every child learns our history. Some wanted to break through the barrier decades ago, to force the Confederation to acknowledge us. Others preferred our isolation, believed it made us stronger." "And what do you believe, Commander?" Reyes considered the question. "I believe in justice, Ambassador. And I believe that helping those in need is right, even if they've wronged you in the past." She paused. "But I also believe in memory. Humans don't forget betrayal easily." "It wasn't betrayal," Ziri protested. "The records speak of fear, yes, but also respect. Your species advanced too quickly, adapted too readily to warfare. The elder races worried that in another century, humans would dominate the Confederation. So they locked us away," Reyes concluded. "Out of sight, out of mind. And now we need you," admitted Ziri. "The irony is not lost on me." A ghost of a smile touched Reyes's lips. "Come, Ambassador, you should rest. The next few hours will determine the fate of your Confederation, and perhaps the future relationship between our peoples." As Ziri followed the commander, they couldn't help but wonder what humanity's answer would be. And more importantly, if the Confederation was prepared for what unleashing humanity might mean for the future of the galaxy. Unexpected allies. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Earth Defense Council was unlike anything Ziri had ever seen. Where the Confederation's chambers were designed to showcase diversity and harmony, this place spoke of unity of purpose. 500 humans sat in concentric rings, their attention focused on the central platform, where Ziri had just finished presenting their plea. Admiral Jackson stood beside the Lyran ambassador, his weathered face impassive as the council deliberated. The silence was unnerving. No telepathic communication like the Sithiri used. No pheromone exchanges like the Xendu, just humans looking at each other, occasionally nodding or shaking their heads. Finally, a woman at the center of the first ring stood. Her uniform was different, all white with gold accents, and she carried herself with unmistakable authority. "I am High Admiral Constance Way, Supreme Commander of Earth's Combined Forces," she announced, her voice clear and decisive. "Ambassador Ziri, we have reviewed your data and deliberated on your request." Ziri held their breath. "Humanity will assist the Galactic Confederation against the Void Eaters," declared Y. Relief flooded through Ziri, so intense that their knees nearly buckled. But Y wasn't finished. "However, we have conditions." Y's eyes were hard as she continued. "First, the dimensional barrier will be permanently dismantled. Humanity will no longer be hidden away like a shameful secret." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. "Second, all historical records within the Confederation will be corrected to reflect the truth of our separation. No more convenient fictions about voluntary isolation." Ziri nodded. These seemed reasonable. "Third, Earth will be granted a permanent seat on the Confederation High Council, with veto power equal to the founding members." This was more problematic. The political balance of the Confederation had remained stable for millennia. Introducing a new power with such authority would cause upheaval. But Ziri knew they had no choice. "Finally," continued Wei, "the non-interference directives that were once used to restrict our technological development will be formally abolished. Humanity will share its advances with the Confederation, and in return, we expect unrestricted access to Confederation research and resources." Ziri swallowed hard. The old directives had been created specifically to slow human advancement, particularly in weapons technology. Without them, "I cannot personally authorize these terms," Ziri admitted, "but I will transmit them to the High Chancellor immediately." We nodded. "While we await the Confederation's response, we will begin preparations. The Void Eaters have already consumed too many lives." Within hours, the Earth Defense Fleet mobilized. Ziri watched in awe from the observation deck of Commander Rice's ship, the EDS Reckoning. What had appeared to be orbital structures around Earth separated, revealing themselves as massive warships and carriers, a fleet assembled with precision that would have made the most disciplined Confederation tacticians envious. "This is only the first response division," Rice explained, standing beside Ziri. 300 ships, mainly scouts and rapid intervention vessels. The main battle groups will follow once we've assessed the Void Eaters firsthand. "How?" Ziri struggled to find words. "How did humanity build all this? When the barrier went up, you had barely established colonies on your own moon." Reyes's expression darkened. "Necessity. After the barrier, we discovered something the Confederation didn't tell us. It wasn't just cutting us off from you. It was also cutting us off from resources we needed to survive. Systems we had begun to colonize were suddenly unreachable. Earth was overpopulated, struggling with climate issues." "I didn't know," whispered Ziri. "Of course not. Your leaders wouldn't have mentioned that part." Rice gestured toward the assembling fleet. "We had to adapt or die. So we adapted. We dug deeper into our planet, built higher into our skies. We learned to harness energy more efficiently, to recycle every molecule. And we prepared, because we always suspected that someday the barrier would come down. We just didn't know if it would be friends or enemies on the other side." The communication alert chimed. High Admiral Way's face appeared on a nearby screen. "The Confederation has agreed to our terms," she announced without preamble. "Ambassador Ziri, your High Chancellor requests your presence at the coordination briefing. Commander Rice, you will escort our guest to the Strategic Command Hub." "Understood, Admiral," replied Rice. The strategic command hub was a massive spherical chamber with Earth displayed at its center, surrounded by holographic projections of star systems, ship movements, and data streams. Dozens of officers worked at stations around the perimeter, while a raised platform at the center held Admiral Jackson, High Admiral Way, and now, connected via quantum communication, High Chancellor Vrax. The translucent alien regarded the humans with a mixture of hope and trepidation. On behalf of the Confederation, I formally accept Earth's conditions for assistance, he said, his voice translated through the human systems. And I extend our profound gratitude. Wei simply nodded. Let's be clear, Chancellor. We're not doing this for gratitude. We're doing this because extinction isn't acceptable. Not for us. Not for you. Of course, agreed Vrax. What is your strategy against the Void Eaters? Admiral Jackson activated a holographic display. Based on the data provided by Ambassador Ziri, we've identified several weaknesses in the Void Eater approach. First, they follow predictable consumption patterns, always moving from the outer planets of a system inward. Second, they leave detectable quantum disruptions before they fully materialize. Third, their consumption process takes time, approximately 17 minutes for a planet the size of Earth. Vrax's compound eyes widened. Our scientists detected none of these patterns. You were looking for the wrong things, replied Jackson. Your species evolved in relatively stable environments. Humans evolved to detect predators. The Void Eaters are predators on a cosmic scale, but predators nonetheless. We took over. Our strategy is threefold. First, evacuation of the systems in the Void Eaters' path. Commander Rise will lead this effort with the Rapid Response Division. Second, establishment of quantum disruption detectors throughout Confederation space to provide early warnings. Third, development and deployment of phase-locked gravimetric weapons to target the Void Eaters during their vulnerable materialization phase. Phase-locked gravimetric weapons, echoed Vrax. Such technology is theoretical at best. For the Confederation, perhaps, said Wei with a hint of pride. For Earth, it's been standard fleet armament for 50 years. The planning continued for hours. Confederation ships would be retrofitted with human technology. Joint command structures would be established. And most importantly, the first true test of human weapons against the Void Eaters would come within days. Commander Reyes found Ziri after the briefing, the Lyran ambassador looking overwhelmed by the scope and speed of human preparations. Are you all right, Ambassador? Asked Reyes. Ziri shook their head slowly. 300 years ago, the Confederation feared what humanity might become. Looking at all this, I understand why. They gazed at Reyes. What if we're making the same mistake again? Unleashing something we can't control. Reyes's expression softened. Humanity has changed in isolation, Ambassador. We've had time to reflect on our nature. Yes, we still have the capacity for violence that frightened your ancestors, but we've learned to channel it, to control it. And after the Void Eaters, what then? Reyes considered the question. Then we honor our agreement. We take our place in the Confederation, share our knowledge, learn from yours. Perhaps the real mistake 300 years ago wasn't fearing us. It was not giving us a chance to prove we could be more than what you feared. 2 days later, the Earth fleet arrived at the Thorian system, the next target of the Void Eaters according to predictive models. Confederation evacuation ships had managed to rescue just over half the system's population of 8 billion. The rest remained, hoping for a miracle. That miracle came in the form of 200 Earth vessels, arranged in a precise formation around the system's outer edges. Commander Reyes's ship, with Ziri aboard, maintained position near the system's jump point, coordinating with the remaining Confederation forces. Quantum disruption detected, announced a sensor officer on the Reckoning's bridge. Void Eater signature confirmed, approaching from heading 047 Mark 023. All ships, battle positions, ordered Reyes calmly. Phase lock protocols active. Targeting solutions online. Ziri watched the tactical display in tense silence. The Void Eaters appeared as amorphous dark masses on the edge of the system, entities of pure dark matter that seemed to absorb light itself. "Phase lock achieved," reported the weapons officer. "Gravimetric disruptors charged and ready." "Fire on my mark," said Reyes, her eyes fixed on the display where complicated calculations tracked the Void Eater's approach. 3, 2, 1, mark. The Earth fleet fired in perfect synchronization. No energy beams, no projectiles, nothing visible at all. But the effect was immediate and stunning. The space around the Void Eaters distorted, stretched, and then collapsed. The dark masses writhed as if in pain. "Direct hit," confirmed the tactical officer. "Void Eater cohesion disrupted by 67%. "Second volley, fire," ordered Reyes. Again, the invisible weapon struck. This time, the Void Eaters fragmented, breaking into smaller entities that scattered in apparent confusion. "They're retreating," exclaimed Ziri, unable to contain their amazement. Reyes shook her head. "Not retreating. Regrouping. Stand by for counterattack." She was right. The fragments coalesced into a new formation, then accelerated toward the fleet at impossible speed. "Evasive maneuvers, all ships," commanded Reyes. "Defensive screens to maximum." The battle that followed was unlike anything in Confederation history. The Void Eaters attacked with newfound fury, as if recognizing humans as a true threat. 3 Earth vessels were lost in the initial assault, their crews and ships simply erased from existence. But the humans adapted with terrifying speed. Each attack was met with a countermeasure, each lost ship analyzed for vulnerability patterns, and with each exchange, the humans learned. "Their consumption rate increases when they're damaged," noted Reyes, studying the data streaming in. "They're feeding on energy to repair themselves." An idea struck Ziri. "Commander, if they feed on energy, what happens if we give them too much?" Reyes glanced at the Lyran, understanding dawning in her eyes. "Tactical, prepare quantum resonance charges. Target the largest fragment." "Charges armed," confirmed the tactical officer. "Fire." A small projectile launched from the reckoning, streaking toward the largest Void Eater mass. Unlike the previous weapons, this one exploded on contact in a blinding flash of energy. The Void Eater absorbed it and began to expand rapidly, its dark surface becoming unstable, rippling with conflicting forces. "It's working," breathed Reyes. "All ships, deploy quantum resonance charges on my mark. Target individual fragments. 3, 2, 1, mark." The Earth fleet fired as one. Dozens of charges detonated among the Void Eater swarm. Each entity that absorbed the energy began to destabilize, expanding uncontrollably until... "Energy surge," shouted the sensor officer. One by one, the Void Eaters exploded in silent bursts of dark matter, the released energy washing over the fleet in waves that the shields barely contained. When the disruption cleared, not a single Void Eater remained. The Thorian system was saved. Cheers erupted throughout the Reckoning's bridge. Reyes allowed herself a small smile before restoring order. "Damage report," she commanded. "Minimal damage to our fleet," reported her second officer. 7 ships lost, 14 damaged but operational. Confederation vessels report similar status. Ziri approached Reyes, awe evident in their posture. "Commander, you've done what the entire Confederation couldn't. You've found a way to defeat them." Reyes shook her head. "We won a battle, Ambassador. The war is far from over. But now we know they can be beaten. And more importantly, we know how." Over the next 3 months, joint human Confederation forces engaged the Void Eaters across 37 systems. The pattern repeated. Humans led the offensive. Confederation ships provided support and evacuation assistance. With each encounter, the strategies refined, the losses decreased. And with each victory, the legend of humanity grew among the Confederation species. The fearsome reputation that had once led to their isolation now became a source of hope and security. On the day the last known Void Eater swarm was destroyed in the distant Cassiopeia sector, High Admiral Wei hosted a ceremony aboard Earth's orbital command station. Representatives from every Confederation species attended, including High Chancellor Vrax himself. Today marks not just victory over an existential threat, proclaimed Wei to the assembled dignitaries. It marks a new chapter in the relationship between Earth and the Galactic Confederation. The dimensional barrier had been permanently dismantled. Earth ships now traveled freely throughout Confederation space. Human scientists worked alongside alien counterparts, sharing 3 centuries of independent development. The results were already proving revolutionary. Humanity accepts its place on the High Council, continued Wei, not as conquerors, not as saviors, but as partners. We bring with us our strength, yes, but also our creativity, our adaptability, and our unwavering commitment to survival. Later, at the reception following the ceremony, Zuri found Commander Reyes standing alone by a viewport, gazing out at the stars. "Contemplating your next mission, Commander?" asked the Lyran. Reyes smiled. "Actually, I was thinking about history, how different things might have been if the Confederation had embraced humanity's differences 300 years ago instead of fearing them." Zuri nodded thoughtfully. "Fear is a powerful motivator. It led our ancestors to hide yours away. It led yours to build the most formidable military force the galaxy has ever seen. And ironically, it was the fear of extinction that brought us back together. What comes next, I wonder?" mused Reyes. "Now that the fear is gone." "Discovery," suggested Zuri. "Together, our peoples can explore further, learn more, achieve greater heights than either could alone." Reyes raised her glass in a toast. "To discovery, then, and to unexpected allies." As Zuri raised their own glass, they reflected on how thoroughly the universe could change in just a few months. The most feared species in galactic history had become its greatest protectors. The isolation intended to contain humanity had instead forged them into exactly what the galaxy needed when extinction loomed. Sometimes, Zuri thought, the most dangerous course of action is exactly the one that saves you. And sometimes, those you fear the most become those you need the most. The stars outside seemed brighter somehow, safer. Humanity had returned to the galactic stage, and nothing would ever be the same again.